Lou Ferrigno was born on November 9th, 1951, in Brooklyn, New York, to Victoria and Matt Ferrigno, a police lieutenant. From early on, he displayed a quiet intensity that would one day help him become an iconic figure, though few could have foreseen how far his determination would carry him. Even before he was 3 years old, Lou began to lose his hearing after a series of infections, an ailment that went undiagnosed at first and then proved impossible to reverse. He would later recount that he lost as much as 75 to 80% of his hearing. Growing up in the bustling environment of Brooklyn was challenging enough, but for a child with hearing loss, it became a constant source of frustration, vulnerability, and, in many ways, motivational fire. Because of his difficulty hearing and the distinct way it caused him to speak, peers cruelly labeled him deaf Louis or deaf mute. No one realized back then that this same adversity would become one of the driving forces behind his amazing perseverance. As a child, he latched onto heroes who seemed larger than life, perhaps because he needed figures to inspire a sense of invincibility he lacked. He adored the Hercules films, particularly those featuring bodybuilder and actor Steve Reeves. He also found himself drawn to Spider-Man and, prophetically, the Hulk. Their feats of strength and resolute moral spirit made a profound impression on young Lou. While he might have felt alienated at school, he saw in these characters an enduring courage that seemed to transcend any physical limitation. He wanted to mirror those qualities in his own life. By the time he reached 13, he began weight training in earnest, using homemade equipment crafted from broomsticks and pails partially filled with cement. This improvised setup might have seemed humble, but it was a testament to his resourcefulness and sheer will to succeed despite limited resources. He learned metalworking at Brooklyn Technical High School, which probably helped him improvise ways to improve his rudimentary weights whenever he needed an upgrade. In an era before sophisticated hearing aid technology, Lou had to adapt quickly to the world around him, learning to read lips and to speak with a confidence that belied his hearing limitations. He recalls how hearing loss shaped his sense of determination. He believed that if he had not been hard of hearing, he might not have developed that relentless drive that later distinguished him in both bodybuilding and acting. There was a measure of loneliness, especially in the 1950s and 1960s, when children with hearing difficulties could easily become isolated. But in Lou's case, every difficulty seemed to galvanize him rather than discourage him. He has often said that his hearing challenges forced him to fight harder for everything, including simple acceptance, and taught him to stand tall in the face of ridicule. By the late 1960s, as the tide of cultural change surged through America, Lou was just finishing high school. The idea of the American dream was evolving, and Ferrigno's dream centered on building the kind of physique that would rival those of his idols. He was still that kid who admired Hercules, but now he had the discipline to back up his aspirations. Not content with mere fantasies, he plunged into the world of competitive bodybuilding. In 1969, right after graduating, he seized his first major title, IFBB Mr. America. That victory became the initial stepping stone into a sport that, while not mainstream, was slowly finding a broader audience, in part thanks to pioneering figures like Joe Weider and the increasing popularity of bodybuilding magazines. By 1973, Ferrigno stood among the elite in the bodybuilding circuit. In 1974, he claimed the IFBB Mr. Universe title, a momentous achievement that underscored how far he had come from the bullied Brooklyn kid with a do-it-yourself weight set. He even moved to Columbus, Ohio for a time, where he trained with Arnold Schwarzenegger, another rising titan in the world of bodybuilding. Their training sessions were reputed to be intense, with both men pushing each other, determined to stand at the pinnacle of their sport. That same year, Ferrigno made an audacious run at the Mr. Olympia title, finishing in a commendable second place. When he came back in 1975, he placed third, but he left an indelible mark on the competition. His quest to surpass Schwarzenegger became a key storyline of the famed 1977 documentary Pumping Iron. The film, known for its candid depiction of the intense rivalries and psychological warfare in bodybuilding, made Ferrigno famous to a wide audience who had never been inside a gym. Suddenly, Ferrigno was not just a bodybuilder. He was a household name, yet fame in the fitness world did not automatically translate into financial security. For much of his early career, Lou struggled to find enough steady income to get by. At one point, he accepted a job in a Brooklyn sheet metal factory, earning a modest $10 an hour. The job was dangerous. He witnessed a horrific accident in which a coworker severed his hand. That experience marked a turning point, convincing him that he needed to leave that environment if he wanted a healthier, more prosperous life. However, professional bodybuilding alone was no guarantee of stability, so he sought new avenues. One such experiment was a brief stint with the Toronto Argonauts in the Canadian Football League. Although Ferrigno had never played football before, his massive size and strength seemed promising. It turned out, however, that raw power did not always translate well into gridiron skills. After only 2 games, the team cut him from the roster. There is a story, long perpetuated among fans, that during a scrimmage, Ferrigno accidentally broke the legs of a fellow player. Whether or not that tale was exaggerated, it underscored the mismatch of talents and environment. The world of Canadian football was simply not the right stage for him. Ferrigno also competed in the inaugural World's Strongest Man contest in 1977, placing 4th among 8 competitors. In many ways, that competition was a microcosm of Ferrigno's spirit. He was always game to test his limits, even in events he had never attempted before. The same year proved to be pivotal. He was cast as the Hulk in the television series The Incredible Hulk. Suddenly, all those years of admiring the comic book hero came full circle. Although Bill Bixby portrayed the mild-mannered scientist David Banner, it was Ferrigno's massive physique and intimidating green makeup that viewers saw whenever Banner transformed into the Hulk. The dynamic between Ferrigno and Bixby stretched beyond on-camera interactions. Ferrigno saw in Bixby a father figure and a mentor who helped him navigate the acting world. They built a rapport, even though their characters were rarely on screen together in their human forms. Bixby's influence extended into Ferrigno's professionalism, especially when Bixby directed certain episodes. Ferrigno often reminisced about how Bixby guided him, showing him the subtleties of performance, pacing, and emotional depth, an essential education for a newcomer transitioning from bodybuilding to acting. Ferrigno continued playing the Hulk until 1981, though the final episodes of the show were broadcast in 1982. Later, he and Bixby reunited for 3 Hulk TV movies, capitalizing on the lingering popularity of the character. Ferrigno's imposing build was crucial for depicting the Hulk at a time when CGI did not exist. Makeup, prosthetics, and raw muscle power brought the Jade Giant to life. These roles cemented his place in pop culture history, but over time, they also overshadowed many of his other ambitions. Ferrigno would forever be associated with the Hulk, and while that offered him a form of immortality, it sometimes confined the opportunities he could explore. Away from film sets, Ferrigno's personal life was evolving. He first married Susan Groff in 1978, but the marriage lasted only about a year. On May 3, 1980, he wed Carla Green, a psychotherapist who eventually became his manager and later a personal trainer. Carla's background in psychology likely offered Ferrigno a sense of emotional support and organizational discipline that propelled his career further. The couple has 3 children: Shanna, born in 1981, Lou Jr., born in 1984, and Brent, born in 1990. Although he was thrust into the limelight through bodybuilding and acting, Ferrigno's family life remained an anchor. They would often appear together at various events, showcasing a family dynamic that contrasted sharply with the dramatic transformations and larger-than-life personas on screen. In the early 1990s, Ferrigno made a return to competitive bodybuilding after a long hiatus. He participated in the 1992 Mr. Olympia, finishing in 12th place, and then returned in 1993 to finish 10th. Though these results were not as high as fans had hoped, his comeback underscored his unrelenting spirit. He was no longer the young challenger to Schwarzenegger, but he still carried a formidable presence on stage. In 1994, he entered the Masters Olympia, competing against legends like Robbie Robinson and Boyer Coe. This campaign was chronicled in the 1996 documentary Stand Tall, which provided an intimate glimpse into Ferrigno's mindset as he pushed his body to its limits well into his 40s. Once again, documentaries offered a window into his struggles and successes, highlighting how the line between performer and private individual could blur under the harsh lights of competition. Television audiences later became reacquainted with Ferrigno in a comedic setting. From 2000 to 2007, he appeared intermittently in the CBS sitcom The King of Queens as himself, along with his wife Carla. The show had fun referencing his Hulk past, often inserting Hulk jokes into the dialogue. Viewers who remembered him from decades earlier found it entertaining to see the larger-than-life actor step into a light-hearted, neighborly role, often poking fun at his own persona. Ferrigno's cameo appearances extended to the 2003 film Hulk, starring Eric Bana, and the 2008 film The Incredible Hulk, starring Edward Norton. In the 2008 version, he also provided the voice of the Hulk, and there is a brief scene in which Edward Norton's Bruce Banner offers Ferrigno's security guard a pizza as a bribe, a playful homage to the original series. Beyond these film cameos, Ferrigno continued to lend his voice to the Hulk in various Marvel Cinematic Universe projects. He voiced the character in 2012's The Avengers and its 2015 sequel Avengers, Age of Ultron. However, the evolution of Marvel's cinematic storytelling ultimately changed how the Hulk was portrayed, leading to more advanced motion capture technology and the vocal involvement of actor Mark Ruffalo. By 2015, Ferrigno's role as the official Hulk voice had diminished. For many fans, this signaled a bittersweet transition. The beloved 1970s and 1980s Hulk, who had been so essential to the character's on-screen identity, was now giving way to modern CGI and a new generation of superhero storytelling. Throughout these shifting Hollywood landscapes, Ferrigno found other creative avenues to connect with audiences. He participated in comedic sketches like one for the popular YouTube channel Smosh, and even launched his own line of fitness equipment, Ferrigno Fitness, which exemplified his enduring commitment to health and bodybuilding culture. In 2009, he demonstrated this equipment on The Price is Right, captivating an entirely different demographic that might not have followed his acting career. From time to time, he appeared in children's television as well. In 2010, he showed up on Sunny with a Chance and in the fictional show Mackenzie Falls. He even lent his voice to Adventure Time, playing Billy the Hero, a neat collision of old-school muscle celebrity and contemporary cartoon fans. In 2012, Ferrigno stepped into the reality television realm as a contestant on the 5th season of NBC's The Celebrity Apprentice, which aimed to raise funds for various charities. Lou's chosen charity was the Muscular Dystrophy Association, demonstrating his long-standing dedication to issues of physical well-being. During the 5th episode, fittingly titled "I'm Going to Mop the Floor with You," Ferrigno served as project manager in a competition to create a viral video promoting a spray mop. The spectacle of Ferrigno juggling business strategies, comedic improvisation, and interpersonal negotiations with fellow contestants offered a new angle on the man many only knew from the weight room or in green body paint. Another intriguing chapter unfolded in June 2012 when Ferrigno was sworn in as a reserve deputy in the San Luis Obispo County Sheriff's Department in California. Completing the Level 1 Law Enforcement Academy brought him to full peace officer status, a remarkable achievement for someone known primarily as a performer and athlete. A year later, in September 2013, he was sworn in as a special deputy in the Delaware County, Ohio Sheriff's Department, highlighting a genuine commitment to public service. Later, in 2018, then-President Donald Trump appointed Ferrigno to the President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition, an appointment reflecting Ferrigno's lifelong advocacy for health and fitness. Each of these positions showcased his desire to wield his fame for constructive ends, aligning with his personal ethos of discipline and community contribution. Still, for all the accolades and varied experiences, there lingers a sense of what might be called a sad ending, though not in the literal sense of death or irreversible misfortune. Ferrigno is in fact still with us, very much alive. But the term sad ending might refer to the bittersweet reality that his iconic role as the Hulk has been eclipsed by modern technology, more sophisticated cinematic universes, and new generations of audiences who primarily associate the Hulk with Mark Ruffalo's mocap renditions. For loyal fans of the original series, there is a collective nostalgia and a tinge of sorrow. Ferrigno, once the definitive embodiment of the Green Goliath, has been placed in the background of a massive entertainment juggernaut. Younger fans might see him at comic conventions. Older fans might reminisce about the days of Bill Bixby's calm demeanor, contrasting with Ferrigno's roar. But the mainstream spotlight is no longer fixated on him as it once was. In some sense, the trajectory of Ferrigno's life represents a broader story about the evolution of Hollywood, bodybuilding, and celebrity culture. In the 1970s, the public's fascination with muscular physiques was still a niche interest. Today, superhero physiques seem almost ubiquitous in film, and special effects have advanced to a point where actual muscle mass is no longer strictly necessary to play an imposing character. There was a physical authenticity to Ferrigno's portrayal of the Hulk that modern CGI can replicate visually, but perhaps not capture in spirit. The very struggles that shaped him, hearing loss, financial hardship, bullying, infused his performances with a quiet grit. When he lumbered onto the screen covered in green paint, it felt like a real force of nature breaking free, not just pixels dancing across a digital canvas. Moreover, Ferrigno's life story illustrates the complexities of celebrity identity. He remains to many the Hulk, even though he had other significant achievements, such as his bodybuilding titles, his philanthropic work, and his law enforcement roles. Fame can be a double-edged sword. It immortalizes a person in a particular role or image, while also curtailing the public's perception of their versatility. He has embraced his legacy with grace, often attending fan conventions where he signs autographs and greets those who still see him as their childhood hero. That he remains grateful for the opportunities is obvious in interviews. However, there is an undercurrent of longing for recognition of his broader contributions. Few realize, for instance, that he took on many charitable endeavors, especially in support of those facing physical challenges, no doubt influenced by his own hearing loss. At the same time, Ferrigno embodies resilience. Age and the changing tides of Hollywood have not robbed him of his passion for fitness. In interviews, he continues to emphasize the importance of maintaining a healthy body and mind, echoing the credo that sustained him through childhood bullying and physical limitations. One might expect an embittered or resentful attitude, but instead he appears genuinely appreciative. He talks about the sense of fulfillment he feels, recognizing that the Hulk introduced him to millions of fans worldwide, many of whom see him as an inspiration. In some ways, his life's mission has been to prove that limitations, be they financial, physical, or social, can be surmounted by steadfast determination. When revisiting his story in full, it's also fascinating to consider the historical context in which Ferrigno rose to prominence. The 1970s was a transitional period for fitness culture. Previously, bodybuilding was somewhat relegated to the fringes. Legends like Steve Reeves had brought it to the silver screen in swords and sandals epics, but it remained largely unfamiliar to the broader public. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno, particularly through pumping iron, made the sport intriguing, even glamorous, to a mainstream audience. Suddenly, gyms were not just for niche enthusiasts. The seeds of the fitness boom were planted. Even the idea of a gym membership became more mainstream, paving the way for the explosion of commercial chains that popped up in subsequent decades. Ferrigno played a crucial role in that transformation, personifying the notion that with discipline and desire, one could carve out a new identity and a new body. His relationship with Bill Bixby, too, can be seen as a microcosm of the ways older Hollywood shaped younger talent. Bixby, already a seasoned actor known for shows like My Favorite Martian and The Courtship of Eddie's Father, offered invaluable mentorship. He demonstrated how to handle lines, how to emote without words, and how to conduct oneself with professionalism. Ferrigno took these lessons to heart, later citing Bixby as not just a colleague, but a paternal figure who guided him through an unfamiliar industry. It was a bond that transcended the typical actor-co-star dynamic. Ferrigno's respect for Bixby only deepened when Bixby directed him in episodes of The Incredible Hulk. Ferrigno would say that there was a mutual trust, an understanding that his hearing impairment required certain adjustments on set. Bixby never made him feel lesser. Instead, he recognized Ferrigno's potential and made sure everyone else on set understood how best to communicate. As Ferrigno matured, so did his sense of community involvement. His charity work, especially on The Celebrity Apprentice, highlighted his desire to give back. The intense boardroom showdowns often played to his advantage, as he brought the same level of competitiveness that propelled his bodybuilding career. And though reality TV can be riddled with contrived drama, Ferrigno approached it earnestly to champion the Muscular Dystrophy Association, a cause aligned with his deep-seated empathy for those living with physical obstacles. He has also been candid about his own vulnerabilities, including the possibility that without bodybuilding, acting, and supportive figures around him, he might have succumbed to self-doubt or fallen into obscurity. His subsequent involvement in law enforcement, first in San Luis Obispo County and then in Delaware County, Ohio, defied the typical post-celebrity path. Many actors dabble in entrepreneurial ventures, but Ferrigno chose an avenue that demanded rigorous physical and mental training. Achieving reserve deputy status required him to complete a demanding academy program, which he did. By all accounts, he did not accept any shortcuts. He studied, trained, and passed the same exams as any other recruit. One can draw a direct line from the disciplined teenager who built his own concrete-filled weights to the adult determined to meet every law enforcement qualification. Even if modern audiences know the Hulk primarily in CGI form, Ferrigno remains an important part of its cinematic lineage. Younger fans may see him listed in cameo appearances or hear older fans mention the original Hulk, which might prompt them to delve into the archives of the late 1970s television series. They could discover a simpler but profoundly human portrayal of the Hulk, a figure that was not generated by visual effects but by a man who overcame hearing loss and bullying to transform himself into a living embodiment of Marvel's green behemoth. The nostalgia factor is undeniably potent. Online forums and fan conventions still buzz with stories of people meeting Ferrigno in person, describing how gracious he is with fans, often taking the time to talk about fitness, hearing loss, or even the significance of never giving up. Yet the phrase sad ending might also reflect how the entertainment world can be fickle. Ferrigno's heyday in Hollywood, especially tied to the Hulk, eventually receded as new technologies, new actors, and new storylines took center stage. While he has not vanished from public life by any means, the overshadowing presence of contemporary Marvel franchises is inescapable. Now, when the Hulk appears in blockbuster films, it is a creation of motion capture and advanced animation, voiced by someone else. Ferrigno's name might show up in the credits, if at all, as a nostalgic footnote. It's a reminder that time marches on and pop culture is perpetually reinvented. Still, it's worth asking, is it truly a sad ending? Or is it simply the natural evolution of a career that has spanned multiple decades and multiple industries? Ferrigno's life story, taken as a whole, embodies persistence against adversity, creative adaptation, and a willingness to embrace new chapters. Yes, the heights of Hulkmania are behind him, but his personal achievements endure. His family, his philanthropic work, and his insistence on living life on his own determined terms. Even if the mainstream spotlight shifts elsewhere, his impact remains. Those who meet him today find a man who still stands tall, physically imposing, yet approachable and surprisingly humble. His hearing aids are more advanced, his perspective broader, and his experiences richer. The final lines of his story are yet to be written. Whether you view the arc of his life as culminating in a sad ending or see it as a testament to resilience, Lou Ferrigno stands as an indelible figure in popular culture. His earliest challenges, financial hardship, bullying, and hearing loss, did not stunt his ambitions, but rather honed them into a sharpened tool for success. His role as the Hulk, while iconic, is merely one facet of a life dedicated to self-improvement, to inspiring others, and to continuously aiming for higher ground. Whether that ground was a bodybuilding stage, a film set, a reality show boardroom, or a sheriff's office. In this sense, maybe Ferrigno's journey reminds us that the truest measure of success lies in how we evolve and touch others' lives, not just in how brightly we shine at our peak moment of fame. The boy from Brooklyn, who fashioned his own weights out of broomsticks and cement, eventually shaped entire chapters of fitness and TV history. He battled the cruelty of childhood ridicule and the limits of partial deafness to become a recognized personality, a beloved father, a community servant, and a cultural icon. Sometimes the real magic is in the grit behind the showmanship. Even if cinematic universes move on, Lou Ferrigno's story remains a powerful narrative of how adversity can forge extraordinary strength of character. And that might be the most enduring legacy of all.